Originally, Yirmiyahu, there were 3 questions. Now, all of a sudden, there's 4 questions. And the big question is, how come there are 4 questions when originally there were 3 questions? And all you got to do, Yirmiyahu, is think of the 4-letter name of God and think of the 3 references of God. And all of a sudden, you got the issue of the 4 and the 3. My fellow Jews don't have to know about this. When I talk about Passover Haggadah, I'm going to talk about Christians as well, and you'll be participating in that too. Anyway, people, I'm anticipating to do something like that after we have our break. We'll have the break roughly around 12:30ish or 12:40, and by 5 minutes to 1, we'll be back again so that we'll have a full class of the 3 of us, the 4 of us, I guess, when this gentleman comes in. All right, having said that, there's also that issue I raised with you, and that was Mekadesh et Shabbat, and Mekadesh Shabbat, and Mekadesh Shabbat, whatever you want to call it. I was surprised that Baruch was also not as clear as my head was when it came to the traditional Kiddush for Friday night. I brought my Siddur with me. A Siddur that I have in hand is a complete Siddur, HaSiddur HaShalem. I don't know if your eyesight is able to see, but look very carefully and look at the vocalization of that word, Hasidur Hashalem. Do you see the letter Hey there? Do you see a patak underneath the Hey? Do you see the Samach that follows? Do you see a Dagesh in that Samach? That's the Dagesh Chazak closing the short vowel patak underneath the Hey. And then as we continue, the word Sidur has a samech and has a hirik underneath the samech, closed by the dagesh chazak and the dalet. This is what you're learning in Hebrew 1 and Hebrew 2 for me. Then you continue with the shurik and then the resh, the accents over the last syllable, hasidur, the sidur, hashalem, the complete sidur. And look again at the spelling of hashalem. You see that shin there has a dagesh in it. It chops your eyes out. That dagesh in the shin is not the mark of the shin. The mark of the shin, if you look very carefully, he has it right on the right side of the shin letter to distinguish it from a sin letter. And so you have proper vocalization. The pata closed by the dagesh chazak in the shin.
You never see Siddur located like that.
I'm teaching you Hebrew. This is what I'm trying to say, how complete this Siddur is. It gives you proper vocalization. Are you able to see? Otherwise, come up close. I can't.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, there's a ligation that chin there. It's a perfect pointing. You have the patak underneath the definite article, the ligation in that chin, and the complete Siddur. When you translate Hasidur HaShalem, you'll notice the English is the complete. He doesn't translate. He just simply has the transliteration Hasidur Shalem. But the translation in English is Shalem, complete, full. So the full Sidur, the complete Sidur. In other words, this is not just simply choosing text. This is a complete Sidur of the holidays, of the everyday service, Shabbat service, and additional sections dealing with Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Shavuot, as I'm looking ahead here, Tashlich and waving the lulav, etc.
That's a Reformed conservative because it's a little small.
This is an Israeli Siddur. It's what you call Orthodox Siddur.
Are you serious? Wow, because you have the Moxors for Rosh
I
Hashanah.
said these are selections. The complete Siddur is complete every day. It's complete for the Shabbat. And then for the holidays, you've got sections for Rosh Hashanah, the Amidah, the Yom Kippur. You have Tashlich in this one here. You have also Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, the Erev Tavshilin, for example, the Amidah that is said, the Musaf service for the 3 Regalim, etc., etc. No, it doesn't have the whole. Has the Akdamot here and has different selections for Hanukkah, for example, etc. But it's called the complete Siddur because how many Siddurim that you have in your possession, Baruch, have the prayer for the road? So this one has a journey. Well, this has Tfilat Derech in it. So for me personally, it's small enough for me to carry. It's involved enough for me to use whenever I have to make use of some of these prayers, which you normally would not find in an everyday prayer book.
I like that. I have to do myself.
It's a very nice one. How available is it today? I have no idea. Anyway, what I'm going to look at, and this is something that involves our Hebrew lesson, I'm going to look at the Kiddush for Leil Shabbat, the sanctification of the wine for Shabbat itself, in which it ends with the following words, Baruch atah Hashem, blessed thou, O Lord, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Mekadesh HaShabbat. Right away, there are two grammatical problems with that phrase. First of all, HaShabbat. The word Shabbat is a proper noun. So with a capital S in English to help you understand what a proper noun is. And therefore you don't need the definite article in front of it. And yet in English we say blessing the Sabbath day. There really is no need to use the definite article if you have your noun to be a capital letter. It's already something identified. Get it? So the Sabbath is the same as Sabbath with a capital S in English. So that's one thing, HaShabbat. All right, if you have to use HaShabbat to make sure it's the Shabbat, then why don't you put an et word before it? Et HaShabbat. Et is always used before a direct object, which is definite. A definite means the definite article or a proper noun. Proper Hebrew should be Baruch atah Hashem Mekadesh et HaShabbat, not Mekadesh HaShabbat. The et is missing. The et is dropped out. So you say, I don't know if you say that to yourself. I've asked that question many times to myself. I'm not going to change it and say Mekadesh et Shabbat. The way out of all these problems, quite frankly, and even Jeremiah can identify with this, is you don't mess with it. It's liturgy, it's scripture, it's the teaching of the synagogues, teaching of the church, whatever. Leave it alone. But from the point of view, why make the exception? Why does it not follow the rules as the rules are the rules are the rules? And then on the other hand, where do you get the blessing, Baruch and Eli, B'Kadesh HaShabbat? Does it come from the Torah itself? Does it come from the ancient rabbis?
Oh, it comes from the Genesis, Bereshit, I believe.
Just one second. I'm saying, where do you get the formula Mekadesh et HaShabbat or Mekadesh HaShabbat? Where does that actual language come from? If you can find it somewhere in the Torah, then maybe I can argue, leave it that way. But if it's, or just wait a minute now. Is it found from the Chazal, from the Chachaminu, Zechronim Uvracha, from our ancient sages? Is it found from a medieval writer who somehow put together the Kiddush ritual, whatever? And that's where you have already an issue of maybe it reflects the grammar of that particular time, etc. And somehow it's frozen with an ancient usage, and it's no longer the way we understand Hebrew today, etc. It could be all kinds of excuses, or it could be that somebody purposely did not include the word et when it came to et Shabbat, dropped it out completely. And if they dropped it out completely, that's where you start interpreting. Why do you drop out the word et? Well, what about that word et? That word et has no translation in English. That word et is a son of direct object. That word et is this, that word is that. That word et is, in other words, something very unusual. And then if you want to be very, very, very theological, the word et has an aleph letter to it and a tav letter to it. And isn't that unusual? The first letter and the last letter. And before you know it, you got one interpretation after another after another. You don't change it, but I'm just calling to your attention, it should be Mekadesh et Shabbat. If you want to be grammatically correct. Which brings me now to Baruch. Baruch sent me, after talking to his rabbi, a source which has Eov mentioned, Yitro mentioned. Wait a minute, yes, I received it. And you also have the three sources are Eov, Job, and
Bilam, and Jethro. Those are the three.
Okay, Jethro, Job,
and Bilam.
And Bilam. Okay. All right. Notice the way Baruch said Bilam. All right, Baruch, I bless you, Baruch. You really are a blessed student of mine, as well as a chaver, as well as a human being, etc. My good friend Baruch, said the word Bilam, 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 Bilam. Everybody I know says Bilam, Bilam. His name is Bilam. There's a missing aleph, I guess, in there, or a missing ayin in there, and that lamed somehow strikes out the original letter. This is what goes on when you speak a language and when you actually see the spelling of the name and you notice a letter's been deleted. It happens all the time whenever the letter involved is a laryngeal letter, particularly if it's the aleph letter, or in this case, the yayin letter, or whatever letter it can be. These letters are kind of silent, so when you have a lamed preceding it, the lamed strikes out that letter, takes over the vowel of that letter, etc. The actual spelling of Bilam, now I'm not even sure. I believe it's spelled with an ayin. I am not sure, but I think I'm right. The name should be pronounced as Bilam, Bilam. The short vowel chirik and the shvan nach anit lamed, CVC, and then CVC for the second syllable. But the way Baruch pronounced that name is typical of so many people. They say Bilam. They don't bother to say that ayin got deleted somewhere. Fine, that's the way it is. Anyway, well, that's not my point right now. The point is that there is a quoted passage that was called to my attention by Baruch the other day. I want to know where the source was. We have three names that are mentioned. One is Jethro, one is Bil'am, and the other one is Job. And what makes all three of them interesting, my dear Baruch, is how Jewish were each three of them. Jethro was not a Jew. First of all, he happened to be what's today the Jews' nation. That's their main high prophet, and also the father-in-law, it seems to me, of Moshe Rabbeinu. And then you got Job running around, and Eov is a real questionary period.
But the thing about Job, that one passage, that goes to explain why he suffered what he did, because he felt to say anything when the babies were being killed. So
I'm not disputing that. It's just that Eov is not part of the Yehudi type of DNA type of thing. And then the other one, Bilam. Bilam is the great prophet of the Gentiles who's told to curse Israel, and out of his mouth comes a blessing that says, Am Levad Boded. You're going to be a nation that's going to dwell all by yourself. Those words are so true to this very day, and these are words not from a prophet Yirmiyahu or prophet Yecheskel or a prophet Amos or prophet Hosea. These are words of a Gentile, if you want me to say it properly. Wait a minute now. The Bilam basically was out to curse Israel, and out of his mouth comes that type of blessing that you're a nation that's destined to dwell by itself.
And we even say Matovo, Matovo, Aleha Yaakov, he said that. This would be the 10th because that's the same from Bilam. We say that every day in the morning prayer.
Okay, you have a lot of things that can be associated with Bilam, which is another point I said. I hope you've seen that video. The only person I can think has seen that video is, I think, Yirmiyahu. Have you seen my video on the Amalek? All right. Why don't the three of you find some time between now and 2 weeks when we come back to class again and see that video? See it soon. And you're going to see what I say about the Amalek character. And Bilam is a classic example of one who comes to curse, and out of his curse words happens to be one of the great, in my opinion, identification of who the Jews are. A people destined to be by yourself. It's not a good feeling, but by being by yourself, you somehow are surviving. By being with others somewhere along the way, earlier in time, you probably would have been disseminated and assimilated. And he's called Bilam a prophet. He's called one of us. He's not really one of us. Which is another way of saying what happens then happens now, what happens now happened then. Be very careful of the Gentile. The Gentile that comes to curse you can well be the Gentile who's going to bless you. So when a Gentile says, I sell Shemura matzah, don't question it. If he's going to bring you some Shemura matzah, then why don't you help him out and buy it? Shemura matzah is that matzah you're supposed to eat the first time. On my door the other day when we were talking about this stuff, there was a Chabad rabbi who knocked on my wife's house there, my house, and had a box of Shemura matzah. Susan didn't order the Shmura matzah. Tall man with a beard, My house is very secure. My wife stays inside. She doesn't open the door just like that. And the Chabad rabbi, I'm sure the son of one of the rabbis, was no doubt, I hope, not embarrassed. He should keep a distance anyway. Now the question is, where did that Shmura Matzah come from? I know exactly where it came from. I had a student in the 1980s. She now lives in Florida. Karen took my classes. She eventually converted to Judaism. Every Pesach, she sends over a box of Shmura Matzah. This is from a Giora. How many fellow Jews send their neighbor a Shmura Matzah box? I went yesterday to do my second. I went to Pavilion yesterday. First place is Cambridge. Third place is going to be Gelson's. The fourth place is going to be Ralph's. I got to go to every place every other day to buy Passover stuff. That's how my house gets cleaned up. So it's at $27 now for a box of Shmura Matzah. I didn't pay anything. I told you I got a Shmura Matzah from a Chabad rabbi who was told to send it to Zev Garber by a convert who lives in Florida now. Of course it's called Chabad. But $27 for Shmura Matzah, as if you people eat it, you should eat it as your first piece of matzah on Passover night. That's all you have to eat, by the way. Don't bother to eat matzah all week if you don't want to. What else are you going to eat? Furthermore, you're my age, be very careful. All you eat is matzah, you're liable to get constipated, it's liable to affect your health. Make sure you have other foods. People, you're talking to someone with experience. And my wife's first instruction to me was pikuach nefesh. She picked up that phrase from me. Make sure you take your vitamins, pikuach nefesh, pikuach nefesh. If you have a health situation, then definitely that takes precedence. It literally, nefesh, that word nefesh is one of these words. In fact, let me play with that word. It's a good word. Nefesh normally is normally translated as soul, S-O-U-L. I rather use another phrase, life animating principle, which means that, God forbid, when the day comes for you to enter Yeshua Shamala, your nefesh is over with. In other words, that nefesh of yours does not continue after death. There are three words that normally are used. Nefesh, the other word is ruach, and then the other word is neshama. Just wait a minute, Baruch. Nefesh is your life animating principle. Ruach is that Yetzer Tov, that good inclination versus a bad inclination, which we all wrestle with every day. There's no one here under any circumstances who can say I live continuously under my Ruach, the Yetzer Tov. Kol HaKavod, if you even think about it. How many of us even think about doing the right thing every moment? I reflect on it whenever I'm in the car by myself. I don't listen to any radio. I just don't, I talk Torah to myself if I can. Anyway, but these two elements, the Ruach and the Nefesh, when death sets in, it's over with. That which is said to continue beyond death is a thing called Neshama, from the Hebrew word to breathe. That explains the strange Jewish tradition that death is encountered not by a heartbeat or whether your brain is working anymore or you're moving your limbs, but the ceremony of putting a little mirror by your nostrils to see if breath comes out. And if there is breath, then you're still alive, even though the doctor says he's dead. Anyway, that's the Shema. That word nefesh, on the other hand, is pikuach nefesh. And notice the phrase pikuach. The pikuach part is the health part, pikuach. The nefesh is the living person that we're talking about. So if you have a situation where you have to take medicines, like I take certain pills every day, I cannot say it's now Passover, I sustain myself, suspend these medicines. Well, can't you find a Passover Passover equivalent? If I can't find, I don't know where I'm going to find a Passover equivalent for this thing or that thing. So you consult with your board of rabbis. And the oldest one there would say, absolutely, I take it every day myself. It's pikuach nefesh. But then some of you young people say, well, that's what I like to hear. I gotta have this, I gotta have that. You can't have it, it's Passover week. Well, it's pikuach nefesh for me. Like hell it is. You can substitute other foods. I have an Armenian fellow that comes over and does physical care with me twice a week. I didn't know that. The Muslims, the Armenians, they've got their 40 days. They have to refrain from meat, fish. I said, what are you talking about? Wait. He doesn't know what you're doing. He said, I don't know what it's for. He said, I'm not religious. I'm an Armenian. Armenian for him is a people. The minute he said the 30 to 40 days, I said, is it this period right now? He said, yes. I said, what your Armenian church is doing is Lent. They sustain from meat, fish, milk. Thank God Jews aren't that wacko yet. We all sustain from meat, so to my knowledge. And then right away he said, Professor, are we related? I said, I guess your cousins to us. You have this type of sustention. Don't you understand what goes on? Remember Lewis who came to class? His church does a lot of Jewish things. As far as they're concerned, that's the way Jesus, the apostles, celebrated. I'm not contesting that. But that's how they feel they need to do it as well.
For breaking like Chabad, is that what they do?
How's that?
For breaking like Chabad, to celebrate, to observe the Torah correctly. Louis and his fellow congregants.
Baruch,
for breaking, it's a Yiddish word. For breaking.
From Brennan.
Yeah, for breaking like Chabad, to celebrate the Torah.
Okay. Anyway, people, you got something I wasn't expecting to do right now, but that word nefesh, if you look at the word nefesh, it has the singular combination. So you would think that the plural of the word nefesh, like the word yelad, is yiladim. And based on Hebrew grammar, the way Professor Garber teaches it, it should be nifashim. However, the plural of that word nefesh is nefashot. How come? I don't know. It does not follow, you might say, what is traditionally the formula for a segolate noun, the way it's formulated on the board. Is the word masculine, if you want to get that far with it, let's go back to some Hebrew grammar again. If a word in the plural, nefashot, and the word in the singular, nefesh, appear to be of two genders, the rule of thumb, unless there's an exception, follows the gender of the singular. So nefesh is a masculine word. Anyway.
But ot is a feminine name.
That's right. That's my whole point. Hebrew does not have a neutral column. In English, we have masculine, neuter, and feminine. So nefesh, you say it. You don't say he or she by the word nefesh. In Hebrew, you would have to say the who word, not the he word. Who, Hebrew who. Go ahead, Mara.
Okay, I have a question, and it's been in the back of our mind. So Hashem created the world with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and some people say that what we know today as Hebrew is not the original Hebrew alphabet, and that's not the same alphabet that created the world.
I don't know how to answer your question there. First of all, using the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, these are Jewish traditions, number one. Number two, you're right about factually speaking that the Hebrew that we know today is not a Hebrew alphabet that was used way back then. Now, the actual name Hebrew alphabet itself is a misnomer. It's an Aramaic alphabet that we're using today. And as far as the actual the original alphabet back then is probably different than the alphabet we know today.
Because the Phoenician alphabet is the same as well, isn't it?
The Phoenician alphabet may be the same. I'm not sure about that. But as far as the characters of writing Phoenician, it's different in appearance than the Aramaic and the Hebrew that you have today. It's called Proto-Hebraic. If you take a look at the ads that they had for Cecil B. DeMille's 10 Commandments, you have a fire coming out of heaven And Zoom, you have Hebrew orthography. That orthography was put together by the professors at UCLA back in the day. Anyway, however you want to see it, the Hebrew alphabet has a lot of mystery to it, has a lot of mystic quality to it, etc. That's what's called a gematria. And then almost you have to ask the different types of questions. Why do you have something special about Lamed Vav, the 36 tzaddikim, according to tradition, and what you have to understand, Baruch, when I say according to tradition, does not mean it's something factual is factual is factual. That's why you have to hear this video where I make the distinction between something factual and how it affects us, which is something actual. You live by the actual, not by the so-called facts. I couldn't give a damn what archaeology tells me about Yud Hey Vav Hey. It's the actual that's important to me.
Is that the same as the no?
That's right. That's my play upon that no business.
So do you think the Yemenites would have the closest to that?
According to tradition, they're the closest as far as Hebrew pronunciation goes, and also Hebrew sounds, yes. But then they're not the only ones. The Samaritans also have a little heritage here.
The Moroccans got about the same heritage.
Well, the Samaritan Hebrew is completely different. Their 5 books of Moses, they actually have a Samaritan Pentateuch. It's under lock and key now. I saw it with my own eyes. I also saw it to be in danger. How do you leave it open this way? The same thing goes with the Dead Sea Scrolls, which you see as the Isaiah scroll, which is the one that dominates the Dead Sea Scrolls for the public, is nothing more than a facsimile of the actual manuscript. I never knew that. I thought it was the real stuff I was looking at. It's only recently that that museum has declared it to be a facsimile.
A copy. That's what I mean?
Yes.
Where's the original one?
It's under lock and key.
Oh, okay.
Do you understand why? All you need is one of these little shop nails, whatever they call it, falling down over Jerusalem somewhere and blowing up their museum there. And that's the danger of what's going on right now. I have no doubts in my mind that Iran, in its most desperate moment, will shoot everything towards Jerusalem. And they won't give a damn that will blow up the Aqsa Mosque. And once that happens, there'll be no control here. The Muslims will go wacko.
But the solution is simple.
This is what you call the actuals now. As far as some Jews are concerned, Baruch, it's a blessing. Let them blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque. No, they're waiting to rebuild the temple in mine and your lifetime, which means now.
Who?
You are not aware that there are Jews waiting to do this? They have,
The
as I speak right now, there's a whole group of them waiting. They even have the heifer.
But the Mashiach was, then the third temple come from Shamayim. It's not going to be built by him.
Not the Shomranim. The Shomranim have nothing to do with Jerusalem.
The Shemayim, it'll come from heaven. The third temple.
No. You've got Israelis who live on the West Bank of Judea, Samaria. You have others as well who basically are waiting for that one moment. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is now destroyed. We now start rebuilding. They have the red heifer. You're not even aware of it. There are Christian farms in Tennessee that are preparing with the red heifer. They have them in place right now. You think this is just a Jewish idea? You got Christian wackos who are waiting to participate in building this temple.
That word was right.
I can go on with this. We have to have a Hebrew class. Just keep in mind that there are people, both Christians and Jews, who are over anxious, and if they don't get what they want soon, they'll start doing it. They'll blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's why the Israeli IDF told the Muslims, get out of here right now. What's the matter? It's Ramadan. Can't we have our feast here? Get out. That's all you're going to see with newspaper headlines. Israelis are telling the Arabs now, get off of their holy spot there. Israel's doing it to save their lives in a sense because it could be a riot right now. I just hope that Pesach is going to be peaceful in Israel. People, this is what's meant by the actual. You don't read facts anymore. You just got to do it right now, etc. And if you take a look at your Kiddush, I'm looking at it right now. The Kiddush has nothing to do with the 6 days and the 7th day. First paragraph does. Then the second paragraph, Yom Techilah, the Sabbath days, the Yom Techilah, the beginning of Mikra Kodesh, the convocations of holiness, Zecher L'Yetziat Mitzrayim. And it says here the Mikra Kodesh, which I read to you from Leviticus 23 the other day, and then it says the memory of Yetziat Mitzrayim. So those are the two themes. One is the creation of the world, and the other is the beginning of the Jewish people. Let me perhaps summarize it. Your Friday night meal is not just simply, or Friday night Kiddush, the creation of the world. It's also the memory of the beginning of Israel. Two beginnings. And for Christians, I guess you can add them as well. Because their Last Supper also has a Kiddush and also has the Motzi. Only they have it in the peculiar order. The proper order for Eli and Baruch and me is you do the wine first and then the bread. But in the New Testament, Gospel according to Mark, followed by Matthew, the bread is first and then the wine. But then the third synoptic gospel, Luke, has the wine first and then the bread. Luke, the Gentile, knows the order of the Jews. Mark, I can expect not to know it either because he's a Gentile, but Matthew certainly knows the order. He's a Jew. And then if you look at the oldest version of that Last Supper, according to Paul, Paul only doesn't have the wine at the beginning of the meal. He has the wine after the meal. Jeremiah, listen carefully. The wine after the meal? Is this a Kiddush? Baruch says, no. Eli says, what the hell are you talking about now? There's only one festival meal where there's wine on the table. It's not drunk from, but when the meal ends, Sfardim drink from it.
After the Birkat Hamazon, you say Kiddush too as well sometimes. Is that correct?
Oh, just no, I wasn't thinking of that necessarily. Next Wednesday night, you'll have that cup of Elijah. You'll have Shana Haba'ah next year, Yerushalayim. Only this time, grab that cup and drink some of it. Jerusalem is not next year. Jerusalem is now. Jerusalem unified has been for a few years now. Yirmiyahu, do you understand why the cup after the meal, it deals with a messianic banquet? So Paul's Seder night is really a messianic night, not so much Exodus from Egypt. But let me just finish. Do you understand the theme is liberation from slavery? Jews are still in this world. Christians are yet to come to a messianic age. They don't have a slavery freedom story. They have a crucifixion and a returning story. The wine after the meal. And I can almost see the Christian Passover. Somehow those cups of wine, but definitely the reference that I just mentioned will have to be emphasized. You'll see it with the 4 questions. You have no idea what the 4 questions really represents. Is Zev Garber's reading of the Hebrew. Go ahead. Quickly, Baruch. I want to do some Hebrew.
Reference to that final meal, that's the meal slaughter the Leviathan, kill the bull, and slaughter the red heifer, the 10th red heifer.
Fine. Yeah, the red heifer business and Leviathan and stuff like that, that's what your Sudash sheet is all about as well. 3 times on the Shabbat day, you eat of Leviathan. The Shabbat, if you wish, is a day of rest from meaning from this world. It's a taste of the world to come. Friday night, you have your gefilte fish, but you Sfaradim don't know for the word gefilte. That's too Ashkenazi sound. It's too Yiddish, so you call it whatever you call it. Then afternoon after Beit Knesset, you have a second meal of the fish. Then the third meal has to be created right before it is sunset. The Sudah, the festive meal, of which you purposely can eat anything you want, but make sure you have some sardines there or herring. Then night sets in, and once night sets in, it's already back to work again. These are traditions upon traditions upon traditions. They're beautiful, but the question is, if you really want to get to the factuals of them, they're interpretations. That's one thing about Judaism I could say, in my opinion, is very attractive, of which many Christians are very, very distanced from. Anything you say has got 4 or 5 interpretations. And for Yirmiyahu, and he's going to learn this next semester, what's beautiful about the Talmudic age is that the opposite positions are not thrown out the window. They're part of the same page. This is the way, but these are the opponents. Everybody's opinion is included. I don't know when Christians are ever going to sit down together and accept 4 and 5 different denominations sitting at the same table. Christians have a way of saying, out. When I find that 2 traditional Christian Protestant churches have an argument of talking in tongues, one says, you talk in tongues? Get out of here. Get out of here. You're talking about 2 major churches in Simi Valley. One is the church on the way, and the other one's the other church there. So I was told. All right, this is not me to interfere with, and that's it. In fact, let me just show you something. See this book here? See the cover? Holy Scriptures? See the writing? Tanakh? Looks very Jewish. It is very Jewish. It happens to be a 1917 English translation of the Jewish Publication Society of the Holy Scriptures according to the Masoretic text, a new translation. It then goes on with the aid of previous versions and the constant consultation of Jewish authorities, the Jewish Publication Society of America, etc., left for me by a husband and wife that took my classes and said, Professor Zev Garber, we would like to leave you a gift. Baruch is saying, so what? Oh, just 1 minute. This has been my English Bible ever since they gave it to me. I then read you the following. Chavurat Malkosh Haftacha. I don't understand, but Chavurat, like a chevra, a committee, and then goes on Malkosh Haftacha. And in brackets it says the latter rain of promised fellowship. The latter rain of promised fellowship. I have an address here, and I have the signature with a phone number. Moses and Esther Rosenberg. Moses and Esther. Very Jewish names. Rosenberg, for goodness sakes, you can't be more Jewish than Rosenberg. Moshe and Esther Rosenberg are Messianic Jews who are part of the Messianic Jewish Fellowship located on Church on the Way. Zev, throw it away. Throw it away. I have, just wait a minute. I have not thrown it away. I thank Moshe and Esther. I spoke at their church. I was at the church. I spoke at the King's College. If you're interested, kick in the name Zev Garber, King's College, which is the seminary of Church on the Way. It's located in Dallas, Texas, with a head Messianic leader there, David Rosen. What's the letter R with Christmas? If I say the letter R associated with Christmas, Rudolph, that's it, David Rudolph. He's a Messianic teacher there. He invited me. If you see his appearance, which you will in the video, looks like a Hasidic rabbi. And David's first comment is, we bring Zev Garber to teach us something. Or Zev is here to teach us to do teshuvah. That's how I'm introduced before a Messianic and Christian group. I said, okay, if that's what you want me to do, you're going to get it. And he asked me questions how an Orthodox Jew can write so eloquently about Christianity. How did I get started with this? And I told him something that's factually correct about Garber. At my Friday night table, my Orthodox observant Jewish father and mother and my sister and I sat with everything that's exclusively Shabbat and kosher. And on the wall above that table was a picture of my father's graduating class. He was the only one of his siblings that went to college. And he got a pharmacy degree from St. John's College in Brooklyn. So what's your point? Every Friday night, I sat under a picture which had 5 priests, the deans and the president of St. John's, and Moses Benjamin Garber's face as part of the graduating class was underneath. How many Orthodox Jewish homes will have a picture, I don't know, of St. John's Seminary with priests overlooking a Shabbos table? My father had no problem with that. It was his one gift, I guess, of college. That audience had a smile. I got them where I wanted to. There's nothing, in my opinion, that should object the Jew to study Christianity. And Baruch and Eli, if you need to know the reason why, so you know how to answer, so you know how to be polite. And can I also say it? You may well bring some of them over to Judaism. That's not your purpose. People have a lot of experience here. More important, the non-Jewish Messianic looks to people like me for guidance. They'll get it without me compromising anything. And with me helping them to understand that as a Christian Gentile, they don't have to keep a Jewish Passover. Or they don't have to wear tefillin. Or they don't have to keep Shabbat. 7 laws of Noah is sufficient, and that's it. But you have to understand a Christian. The 7 laws of Noah are not sufficient. Why are you limiting us? We want to do more. And all you need to do is have a Christian pastor say that Jesus lived Judaism, not Christianity. That's all you need to hear. You'll hear it in the video, by the way. Zev Garber is not Rabbi Jesus. Zev Garber can teach Rabbi Jesus. All right, people, I wasn't expecting to do all of this, but I think we now need to go back to Hebrew. And no matter how nice it is to talk this way and how significant it is, and let me just mention, at least the one I'm seeing, the school now has the full schedule on. You can now register for fall classes, and that's what I see. Take a look now at the calendar, Yirmiyahu. And the one thing that bothers me, I hate to say this because I'm not going to let it happen. They have the class listed, the hours, like we have this one, from 11:20 to 12:55, not to 1:55. That's correct. It's a 3-unit class, but they have the classroom to be CC, that's Campus Center, 220 or 221. I said, what's that about? What about foreign language? Then I said to myself, are they changing the instructor? So I made sure the instructor's name is there, Zev Garber. But why 220? I told you a few weeks ago, they're demolishing buildings. Foreign language may well be demolished in the fall or no longer usable. It's a sad commentary if it is, because there are no students to fill in the new buildings. But that may well be the direction now being taken. Anyway, Yirmiyahu, I know you're going to continue in the fall, and Baruch as well. Check out the calendar. Look for Jewish Studies too. That's the class being offered, in which I'll go into greater detail about Jewish holidays, etc. But if you have that money, it costs you, Yirmiyahu, maybe $20 to get it. Have you have it? I know you do. This book will always be used by everybody. Baruch, you can get this book online. The Annotated Passover Haggadah has the traditional Haggadah, huh?
Is it the Christian or is it the regular one? Is it traditional?
This is the traditional Haggadah.
Oh, okay.
Sure it is. And Zev Garber is the one that's commenting on every paragraph practically. I comment on different traditions associated with Pesach, but you have the translation. It's all officially Orthodox. And then you have different commentaries by different points of view, but it has nothing to do with the actual Haggadah itself. So, for example, one article done by me is called The Traditional Seder Table. Talks about the candles, the cup of wine, the Haggadah, the matzah, and all that stuff there, including the charoset, the karpas, the cup of Elijah, and all that stuff there. There's a thing called Eruv Tavshilim, which you probably know about. How many people know about Eruv Tavshilim, the mixing of cooked dishes? I cover everything of a traditional Seder preparation. B'dikat Chametz, I did that article on that one too, searching for the Chametz. I have the article on the Jewish calendar, which is extremely important to read, how much more so when it comes down to why is Yom HaShoah celebrated on Nisan 27 and not when you have, I guess today, International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And as far as Valley College is concerned, you have an official Armenian Genocide Day where the school is closed. Yom HaShoah Day, the school is not closed. It's not even mentioned. Am Levad Boded. There are people dwelling as by yourself. Why is Valley College not mentioning Yom HaShoah? The 27th day of Nisan. And this year you check out your calendar. I ain't going to tell you why it's the 27th day. Why don't you read my article? You'll be terribly shocked to understand, in my opinion, why it's the 27th day. All right, people, we need to go back to our Hebrew so that when the gentleman comes in at the 1 o'clock hour, at least we can say we're having a Hebrew class. We are having a Hebrew, but it's going on different ventures, you might say.
Like you said,
Yeah, hold, Baruch, why don't you hold on with that? We'll take that soon. I'll talk about that later a little bit. Anyway, let's go back to that unit number 3, I guess, in which all we have here is just 2 paragraphs to still read. I'm sad to say that Kana is not here right now, but that's her. Probably she's cleaning up for Yontif, I don't know. Okay, where we're at now is the end of units. Let me get myself straightened out. We did 95, we did 96, 97. Or am I confusing myself? What page did we leave off at?
96, 97, you're correct. 97, and we're at 4 additional texts.
Okay, right, I got you. Okay, why don't we do that? It's okay. So the additional text is basically just reading the Hebrew without vowels. And Baruch, why don't you read together with Eli? You take the first line, Eli, you take the second line, and we'll continue with that reading. We're looking now at page 97, what's called additional text, number 4 in English. Sichot Nosafot is in Hebrew, Sicha Aleph. Okay, go ahead, Baruch.
Yaakov Medina Le'an Atem Halochim.
Holochim. Eli? Okay, before we go any further, I hope the Hebrews understood. Yaakov and Dina, where are you going? Where are you walking? Where are you going? The word holech means to go. And the response is we're going to the Hebrew, to a class Bangli in English. Continue, Baruch.
Okay, English. Ma Atem Osim Be'ita. Where is the class?
I just one second. I think what I'm going to do is you read your line and translate for me. Read that line again and translate what you read.
Ma Atem Osim Be'ita. Where is the class, or where are they going to class? Oh, what are you doing in class? Okay.
Okay. Eli, you want to translate that same line? Ma atem osim bikita, as he read it?
What are you guys doing in class?
What are you guys doing now in class? Okay, adding the phrase you guys. That's not the Hebrew. That's English, explanatory. What are you doing in class? Okay. The reason why I decided to have you translate is dafka, the way you're reading the Hebrew. As long as you read the Hebrew the way you're reading it, then I'm going to raise some questions right now. The word is read by Baruch as Bikita. This is what I heard you read. And I want you to see what I'm doing now. First of all, the word kita, where you vocalize it, is spelled this way. Where you don't vocalize that Hebrew, that E sound is created by adding the yud to it. So that's the difference between the vocalization and the unvocalized Hebrew. But the fact that you have the word bikita, notice you have the letter bet, you have a shvana under it, and Baruch, you cannot have a dagesh in the kav letter following a shvana. So if you want to read it as bikita, then the reading should be bechita, which just sounds very awkward. Now, do people say bikita? They probably say bikita, but grammatically speaking, it's wrong. Next observation. I would like to have the phrase read as probably as bakita. If you have the phrase read as bakita, then what you have originally is the word hakita, the classroom. The bet comes along, as we told you last time, strikes out the hay, takes over the vowel, and bakita will be in the classroom. Bakita. I have no problem reading that sentence as bakita. Therefore, it would be read matem osim bakita. What are you doing in the classroom? Not in a classroom, but in the. If you want to say in a, then it would have to be bechita. But to read it as bikita, which is how Israelis might read it, is incorrect Hebrew reading. That's part of the problem. The Israeli native speaker does not read or speak grammatical Hebrew. It's true of everybody who speaks a native language. Okay, Uriel, see if you can read the next line, page 98 on top. That's it. It doesn't say it. Just read what you see. All right, could you translate Anachnu Lomdim? We learn or we study. Likro, what do you think Likro is? Okay, we are learning to Likro, to read. Liktov is to write. Okay, all right. There are other problems right now. Again, unvocalized Hebrew is not the same as vocalized. Anachnu lo medim, no problem if I vocalize those words, but then likro and liktov. You notice how she writes out the word likro. If we do our Hebrew with vocalization, the likro word is written like this. It is a media cholam, made long, by the way, as a result of the last letter aleph. And Lechtov is written like this when you write without vowels. Or maybe not. Maybe you put a vav in there. Let me just think a moment. It could be the long cholam. But Lekro definitely is what this is spelling here. And Lechtov, well, let me double check. This is a guy who studied Hebrew and taught Hebrew for half a century, much more than that. I'm going to double check with the vocalization. Yeah, the media cholam. I'm looking at the word, for example, of lecho has a media cholam. I'm looking on page 63, the word la'avod has a media cholam. I'm looking at page 62, the shlemim verb to study, lomod has a media cholam. All of you look with me now on page 62, where you have the verb in the infinitive, and you'll notice it's not a vav, long cholam, it's the media cholam. And yet, when you take a look at the unvocalized Hebrew, page 98, she doesn't write a media cholam at all. She puts a vav in there to create the O sound. That is a major problem between vocalized Hebrew, which gives you the proper spelling, and the unvocalized, which adds the vav in there to give you the O sound. You're going to have to get used to that by constant exposure to the vocalized and the unvocalized. Okay, back to page 98, and then we pick up with the next line, second line from the top. All right, let's try that a second time, Ellie. Okay. Atem lo lomdim ledaber, no problem. Lichtov, no problem. Likroa, there's a problem. Did you say likroa? Okay, there's a problem. What you're doing is you're giving it a stolen patach. The stolen patach phenomenon is only found under the last letter ayin and the last letter chet if the vowel before is any vowel but an ah sounding vowel. So when you say the word likro, notice how I'm running it. I have an O sound, an O sound. I have an aleph, that's the last letter. I don't have an ayin or chet. So to have a possible stolen patach, likro ah, is not possible. It's likro. On the other hand, if I have shin mem ayin, it's lishmo ah. There's your stolen patach. A lamed aleph verb will not have a stolen patach under it for the infinitive, nor does a lamed hey have a stolen patach. Okay, not a problem. That kuf resh aleph is a very common word, especially if you go to the synagogue that Eli goes to. Why so? Because part of a observant day Shabbat, there is the kriyah. There is a so-called reading. And that kriyah is normally given a fuller title, kriyat. That's your construct word, kriyat, reading of kriyat Torah. Reading of the Torah. Notice in English, I'm learning a lot about myself right now. I would say in English, reading of the Torah, not reading of Torah. If it's reading of the Torah, it should be Kriyat Torah. Barak, do you say Kriyat Torah or Kriyat Torah?
I don't think it's it with a ha. I think it's Kiryat Torah. That's what the standard one is, but the correct one would be Kiryat
Just 1 minute.
Torah.
Ellie, do you say Kriyat Torah, Kriyat Torah? We all say Kriyat Torah. We all say reading of Torah. But in English, reading of the Torah, we say. Isn't that interesting? It's the same phrase, I guess, but one language throws in the definite article. The other one says, what do you need a definite article for? Torah itself stands out. Unless you mean Torah to be any kind of important document, which it could be, a teaching. That only underscores why you have to see that video of mine. It's your mind that's going to make the decision which way it should go. Is it the Torah or is it a Torah? And once that happens, your full understanding of something is now going to be questionable. And Baruch, in your case in particular. That's why Pesach, the reading of the Haggadah, you better end it at 12. Because if you're going to ask questions upon questions, you're going to violate what you should be doing. It took me all my adult life to finally learn I violated the Pesach. We would end Pesach about 3 o'clock in the morning. Not me, my grandfather's house. I don't know what the hell they were talking about. Everything was in Yiddish. But they were arguing a lot. It's nice to see that family friendship, but that's got to stop too. And it's interesting. The more traditional the shul is, the more they get involved with talking, screaming, and everything. The reformers, they finish 1, 2, 3.
There's a show, they asked, what's the tradition of the show? So they go to the oldest guy in the show, forget his name, Shlomo, they said, they were sure how to read it and what it was. They said, ask him what the tradition of the show was. He said, the tradition of the show is to argue.
That's it. In Israel, by the way, I must admit, they are very, very restrictive. They don't end right away. I only know Orthodox shores. When I lived in Israel, my father went to an Orthodox shore. Things ended boom, boom, boom. The sermon was maybe 5 minutes. If it was a longer sermon, they somehow finished anyway. And I guess in the case of your case, Jeremiah, why was that so? Because in Israel, sadly, they only have 1 day of vacation. Can't spend half of it in the shul. Go home now, relax with your family, take your walk. I'm almost convinced that's why. The synagogues made sure they restricted their time that way. Yeah, and wherever you live, and the group that you're with was going to determine how you're going to conduct yourself. That's why my good friend Jeremiah, thank God I was not from Brooklyn, I come from the Bronx. The Bronx is a little more relaxing. Brooklyn is impossible. These two characters don't know about Brooklyn.
That's a Brooklyn 2 times. Or 1 time.
Yeah. I mean, living in Brooklyn is not the same as living in the Bronx. So today, the Bronx, who knows what goes on there now. All right, people, I really have to, I want to finish this before you take a little break. Okay, so Lektov Lekrog, Atem Lo Lomdim. Okay, that line is, read again that line, the second line again. Okay, Atem Lo Lomdim Ledaber, you don't learn how to speak. All right, Baruch, take out the next line.
Okay, אנחנו לומדים גם לדבר.
Very good. And try the next line, Yirmiyahu. Very good.
That's it. Oh.
No, Yirmiyahu, give yourself a cup of coffee afterwards. I know you enjoy your coffee. And what you can start doing now is I want to drink some cafe. Just use the Hebrew. You read it very well. You read it so well that you did an Israeli army. You read that second word, Yodim. Okay, Anachnu Yodim, Yodim L'daber Anglit. Again, notice my the Yiddish phrase is Narishkeit. My Narishkeit. I can't translate that word. My That's the word. My foolishness, I guess, would be English. I try to pronounce the shvan out when it occurs, so it's yodim rather than yodim or yodim. Yodim sound the shvan nita dalit. Okay, and we know how to speak, and we know how, and vatem yodim, and you know how to speak English. And the response, Yirmiyahu, read the last word now. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, you're reading okay. Just read a little louder if you have the confidence. Okay, came. Okay, came. Okay.
That's how I remember it.
All right, dear people, let me go over the paragraph again. Watch how I read it. See if you follow the regular path of reading Hebrew. I'm reading it at a pace that's regular. Yaakov Bedina, back to page 97. La'ana tem holachim. Anachnu holachim l'shi'ur ba'anglit. Matem osim bakita. What are you doing in the classroom? If I want to say in a classroom, bechita. Next page, anachnu lomedim lekro v'lektov. Lektov v'lekro, atem lo lomedim ledaber. Anachnu lomedim gam ledaber. Atem yodim ledaber anglit. Ken. All right, one more paragraph. B'vakasha, Baruch. Next line.
One, Marata Lomed.
Good.
That's a run. What do you study?
What are you studying? Correct. Go ahead, Ellie.
Oh, sorry. אני לומד מתמטיקה,
Fizika.
פיזיקה, I can't read that word, אסטרונומיה,
Good.
וכימיה.
Good. Anilo me matematica. The next word is física. You pronounce that pay letter as a F sound. Again, it's a borrowed word, so you don't follow Hebrew rules necessarily. Física, astronomia, and then people say vikimia, but the kaf would have to be opened up because it's following the letter vav with a shva under it, so it would be vikimia. Okay, Mr. Jeremiah, let's see you do that next line.
Behemia or Behemia?
The word is chemia. The word is chemia for a lot of people.
But on the prefix would be ve or be?
It would be vechemia,
With a
shvana. All right, let me say something about that word chemia. I said it at the beginning when we first saw the word. I myself know the word is chemia. Most Israelis will not say chemia, they'll say chemia. All right, you want to say chemia? Fine. But when it comes to following a prefix letter, then definitely you have to open it up. If it's a vav letter, so it will be vichemia. So professors say, why do you say chemia? Because the word chemistry has a CH in front of it. But then that CH is pronounced as a K sound in English. So you go back and forth. How do you say that word? Chemia or chemia? I know this chemia. Others will know this chemia. Anyway, continue, Baruch. Next slide. No, I think I gave Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu, why don't you try that? Come on, Yirmiyahu. Go ahead.
Ata Lomed
Gam.
Gum Mathematica.
Okay, Mathematica, continue.
Physica.
Well, say the word gam first. Gam física.
Gam física. Yeah.
Go ahead. Just Ellie, let him try. Okay, Ellie, help him. Okay. As Yabiel, when you look at the words introduced at the beginning of this unit, you'll see all those words spelled out. Astronomia. Okay, vegam chemia. Either chemia or chemia. Okay, that line again, Italo made gam matematica, gam física, gam astronomia, the gam chemia or chemia. All right, Baruch, continue.
כן, ומה אתה עושה?
Okay, that vimma, I definitely want to correct. The other day I went over the hey letter, the bet, the bakal letters, and the vav letter. The vav before four letters which are bilabial, the mem letter, the pay letter, the bet letter, and the mem and the vav letter gets pointed as an u. So the word ma starts with the letter m, the mem letter. The vav is pointed as u. Uma atause.
Oh, so it becomes ooh. Okay.
And why don't you take the last line?
Uma ata ose. So that's how you would say it?
That's right.
I've never heard that before. Uma? אתה עושה?
ומה אתה עושה? אני כותב שירים, קורא ספרים ולומד בפסיכולוגיה ואסטרולוגיה.
All right, let me hear you read it again. Be very careful and slowly. Ani.
אני כותב, כן?
Go ahead, just read.
שירים,
Okay, shirim, not shiurim.
שירים, songs.
Shirim.
שירים.
Ali, let me just talk.
שירים.
That's right. That's what it says.
שירים.
You read it as shiur. You read it as lessons. It says shirim.
שירים, קורא.
Korei.
קורא ספרים.
That's right.
ספרים ולומד
Yes.
פסיכולוגיה
Go ahead.
ואסטרולוגיה.
Okay. Could you translate?
I write songs and read books that study psychology and astrology.
Astrologia sounds like.
Astrology.
Okay. All right, people, take that break of yours. I'm afraid you're going to have to come back roughly around the 1 o'clock hour. Please try to not go far. Just take a 10-minute break, and that's all I have to say. Okay. Main thing is you fill out the. How's that?
Canceled my brother's flight